Hello everyone. All of you guys seem to like the first video that I made, so if you like that one, I hope you guys like this one just as much. Today we're going to be talking about an absolutely legendary locomotive from Lionel. So just a heads up, if my voice at any time during the video sounds a little funny, it's the end of summer, which means allergies and my sinuses start acting up like clockwork every single year, so I apologize in advance. We're going to go over the history and some of the technical specs on this locomotive, so just sit back and enjoy it. Today we're going to be taking a look at the 1950 version of the 736 Berkshire. Back in the day, obviously before computers, Lionel would study actual locomotives and closely look at photographs and scale them down the best that they could. All the Berkshires of this time period are based on real-life Boston and Albany locomotives. Let's get into a little bit of history on these locomotives. When these first came out, these were not 284s. For those of you that don't know, every steam locomotive is classified by its wheel arrangement. So, as you can see here, 2 pilot wheels, 8 driving wheels, 4 trailing wheels, 284. We could trace this locomotive's origin all the way back to 1938. Let's go take a look. Running from 1938 to 1941, Lionel made the 226E, the E meaning electronic reverse. It was a 264 locomotive, very sought after by collectors today, and a very good puller. This being one of only 2 locomotives of the pre-war period to have a red light under its cab to simulate the firebox glow. After World War II, running from 1946 to 1949, Lionel released their largest steam locomotive to date in terms of wheel arrangement, the 726 Berkshire. Smoke was added, but the red light under the cab to simulate the firebox was no more. In 1950, Lionel brought out the redesigned Berkshire, and it was numbered 736. The main noticeable difference right away that everybody would pick up on would be the types of drivers that it used. The 736 has spoke drivers, whereas the 726 would have used Baldwin discs. They looked like this. This locomotive still had smoke, but new for the 1950s, this locomotive showcased a brand new feature that would set Lionel apart from all the rest of the manufacturers of the time period.
All with Lionel's exclusive magnet traction, a sensational track gripping power that lets them climb steep grades, take sharp curves faster, pull many more cars, and stop on a dime for loading and unloading in true-to-life big railroad style.
So essentially how magnet traction would work, you had magnets placed within the chassis, and it would magnetize the wheels and give you extra grip on steel track. 1950 and 1951 versions of this locomotive are essentially the same, a couple of minor differences here and there. But in 1952, Lionel would drop magnet traction due to the Korean War, and the metals used for the system were very scarce. So Lionel actually changed the name back to 726 with the suffix RR at the end, RR meaning re-release. In 1955, in order to save on cost, these rear trucks were no longer made of die-cast metal. They were actually made out of stamped sheet metal. In 1957, this was no longer Lionel's largest locomotive. They then came out with the number 746, which was a 484 Northern based on the Norfolk and Western J class, like you see right here. From 1957 through 1968, all these versions were pretty much the same. All the fine trim pieces were gone, the flagpole stanchions in the front, the swinging bell on the roof, and also the steam whistle were all eliminated. All of the versions from 1950 through 1968 came with 3 types of tenders: the 2671WX, the 2046W, like you see here, or the 736W. Some of them said Lionel lines, some of them said Pennsylvania. But let me let you in on a little secret here. So a few weeks back at the Greenberg Train Show in Edison, New Jersey, the gentleman that I bought this particular tender from told me that he had friends that worked at the Hillside, New Jersey Lionel factory. And one of his friends that worked at the factory told him that there was such a high demand for these locomotives that they would actually run out of tenders regularly for these. And they would grab any tender they could get their hands on and send it out the door with whatever tender they got. So, on paper, according to TandemAssociates.com, which by the way is a fantastic website if you're trying to find any information on vintage Lionels, you could get any one of these 3 tenders, but in reality, you could have gotten any tender. And when he asked his friend, why did you guys just throw any tender in a box and send it out the door? His friend said, well, simply, these were kids' toys. These were Christmas presents. These were birthday presents. He said, we had no idea when we were making these that 70 years down the road, these things would be nearly as collectible as they are. But once again, enough of me talking. Let's run this absolutely beautiful locomotive and see how good a 71-year-old locomotive still runs. Runs absolutely fantastic, and these are readily available. You can go to just about any train show, and I guarantee you find a ton of these things. They are going up in price, so if you find one that's in really good condition, expect to pay in the ballpark of about $250 to $350. This one might not look it, but it has some defects. The window bars, I guess if you want to call them, are missing on this one. And the cab corner's bent in a little bit, so that will drastically affect price on these. But if you find one that's in really nice shape, especially if it has the original boxes, you're gonna expect to pay a good penny for these. This one I picked up for $175. So keep your eyes open, you can find good deals out there. So once again, like, subscribe, and I'll see you again soon.